Deep in the unforgiving South American jungle, Dr. Nathan Cole stood before an impossible discovery. A pristine steel door embedded in ancient stone, untouched by time. His lifelong pursuit of archaeological truth had led to this moment. As the massive door slowly opened, revealing technology that shouldn't exist, Nathan's world of scientific certainty crumbled. Cold light flickered to life inside the chamber, illuminating a room of mirrors and metallic surfaces that had waited in darkness for centuries. At the center sat a single chair, bearing the haunting silhouette of its last occupant. His assistant's voice broke the silence. "This isn't ancient technology. Could this discovery rewrite human history, or was it evidence of something far more disturbing?" Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dr. Nathan Cole hunched over his cluttered desk, the yellow lamplight casting long shadows across stacks of academic journals and weathered field notes. At 62, his once robust frame had grown leaner, but his eyes still burned with the same intensity that had driven him through 3 decades of archaeological expeditions. "They think I've lost my mind," he muttered, fingers tracing the strange mathematical symbols etched into his photographs. The university board had been explicit. His funding would not be renewed. Too many years chasing connections between ancient civilizations that conventional archaeology insisted couldn't have communicated. His office walls told the story of a career hovering between brilliance and obscurity. Shelves lined with artifacts most museums would covet stood beside framed rejection letters from academic journals. The prestigious Parker Medal for his work in Peru sat ironically beside yesterday's letter terminating his position. A knock at the door interrupted his brooding. Maya Rodriguez entered without waiting for a response, as was her habit after 15 years as his research partner. "You're packing already?" she asked, noting the half-filled cardboard boxes. "They're not waiting for the semester to end," Nathan replied. "Apparently I'm an embarrassment to the department." Maya crossed her arms. At 45, she'd sacrificed a promising career at a more prestigious institution to follow Nathan's unorthodox research. Her expertise in ancient languages had proven invaluable, especially when deciphering the mathematical symbols that had become their shared obsession. "James and Carlos are still in," she said. "We have enough private funding for one last expedition." Nathan's eyes lit up. "You found it?" "The convergence point?" She nodded, spreading a map across his desk. "The symbols from 5 different sites all point to this location in the Peruvian highlands, an unexplored temple complex. The university will claim anything we find," Nathan warned. "Not if we go as private researchers," Maya countered. "I've already filed the paperwork." Later that evening, James Chen arrived with equipment specifications. The 38-year-old technology expert had abandoned a lucrative position in Silicon Valley 3 years ago after becoming fascinated with Nathan's theories about ancient mathematical knowledge. "I've modified the ground-penetrating radar," he explained, pulling up schematics on his tablet. "It should detect any anomalies in the temple structure, especially if there are metal components, as you've predicted." "The locals won't like us disturbing the site," Carlos Vega reminded them. Their guide for a dozen previous expeditions, the 52-year-old's knowledge of South American jungle terrain and indigenous cultures had saved their lives more than once. "We'll be respectful," Nathan promised. "But this is our last chance to prove what we've been working toward, that these ancient civilizations understood mathematical principles we've only recently rediscovered." The preparation consumed 3 frantic weeks. Equipment was purchased through Maya's foundation to avoid university oversight. Maps were finalized, permits secured, and provisions packed. On their final night before departure, Nathan found himself alone in his emptied office. From his pocket, he withdrew the weathered compass, his first find as a young archaeologist. Its markings had never made sense with traditional navigation, but aligned perfectly with the mathematical symbols that had become his life's work. One last expedition, he whispered to himself, feeling the weight of decades of research in his hands. If he was wrong, his career would end in disgrace. If he was right, everything humanity understood about ancient civilizations would change forever. Dawn broke cold and clear as the team loaded their final equipment into rugged vehicles. None spoke of the risks: political instability in the region, treacherous terrain, and the academic ridicule that would follow failure as they pulled away from the university that had been Nathan's home for 20 years. He didn't look back. His eyes were fixed forward, toward the horizon and the answers he believed waited in the jungle. What none of them could possibly imagine was that the truth buried beneath that ancient temple would not only rewrite history, it would reshape humanity's understanding of its very origins. The humid air clung to Nathan's skin as the team's jeep navigated the narrow dirt road winding through the dense jungle. 2 days of travel had brought them to San Miguel, the last village before their destination. The settlement consisted of a few dozen structures clustered around a central square. Isolated from the modern world by miles of impenetrable forest, we should reach the temple site by midday tomorrow if we leave at dawn, Carlos said, consulting his GPS unit. The locals say the rainy season is coming early this year. The villagers watched with wary expressions as the team unloaded their equipment. Children darted between huts, pointing and whispering at the strangers and their mysterious cargo. An elderly man approached, leaning heavily on a gnarled wooden staff. The intricate carvings on his walking stick immediately caught Nathan's attention, geometric patterns remarkably similar to those in his research. The elder wishes to know why you seek the forbidden place. Carlos translated after the man spoke in the local dialect. Nathan knelt, removing the quantum cipher stone from his satchel. The obsidian tablet had baffled experts for decades. When he held it up, the symbols seemed to shift in the sunlight, mathematical patterns emerging and disappearing with the changing angles. The elder's eyes widened. His weathered hands trembled as he reached toward the stone, but stopped short of touching it. He says the stone belongs to the visitors who walked between worlds. Carlos translated as the old man spoke rapidly. He says his ancestors were forbidden to approach the temple where the visitors conducted their work. Maya joined them, her notebook already open. Ask him what he knows about the markings. The conversation continued as villagers gathered around, their initial wariness shifting to a tense curiosity. The elder described legends of beings who came from beyond the stars, bringing knowledge that transformed their ancestors. The Forbidden Temple was their dwelling place, where they studied the heavens and conducted experiments beyond human understanding. That night, the team organized their findings in the village's small meeting hall. James set up his computer equipment, cross-referencing the elders' information with their research. The mathematical sequences in these carvings, Maya said, pointing to photographs of symbols found at different archaeological sites. They're not just similar, they're identical. The same precise angles, the same proportional relationships, which would be impossible if these civilizations never communicated, Nathan added. Yet conventional archaeology insists they developed independently. James pulled up a 3D model of the temple site based on satellite imagery. The structure is perfectly aligned with celestial markers. During tomorrow's equinox, the sun will align exactly with this central chamber. That can't be coincidence, Nathan murmured. As the others continued working, Nathan stepped outside. The night sky blazed with stars, undiminished by artificial light. He held the quantum cipher stone up against the constellations, watching how the carved symbols seemed to align with specific star patterns. A soft voice interrupted his contemplation. A young village woman approached, offering a cup of steaming liquid. "My grandfather wishes you to have this tea before you journey tomorrow," she said in halting English. "He says you will need clarity of mind when you face what waits in the temple." Nathan accepted the drink. Your grandfather seems certain we'll find something significant. The woman's expression grew solemn. The elders say the temple breathes, that it has been waiting for someone who can understand its purpose. She glanced at the stone in his hand. Someone who carries the key. Before dawn, strange dreams jolted Nathan awake. Mechanical sounds and pulsing blue light had filled his sleep, along with mathematical equations that seemed to write themselves across his consciousness. As the team prepared to depart, the village elder approached again, pressing something into Nathan's palm. A small carved figurine depicting a humanoid figure with elongated features, its hands raised toward a circular object. He says this protected his grandfather when he ventured too close to the temple as a young man, Carlos translated. He says, "We will need all possible protection today." The team exchanged uneasy glances, but Nathan merely nodded his thanks. Scientific skepticism aside, he had learned through decades of fieldwork that local beliefs often contained kernels of truth, warnings born from observation rather than superstition. As they departed, the morning sun illuminated the distant hills where the temple waited. None of them spoke the question that hung in the air. What could inspire such enduring fear of an ancient ruin? The team reached the temple site by mid-morning, the rising heat already causing sweat to drip down their backs. Centuries of jungle growth had reclaimed most of the structure, but the unmistakable precision of human engineering remained visible beneath the green canopy. This wasn't on any official archaeological registry, Maya said, consulting her tablet. How could something this massive remain undocumented? The locals avoid it, Carlos replied, machete in hand as he cleared a path. And the terrain makes satellite imaging difficult. James unloaded the ground-penetrating radar equipment. The stone composition is unlike anything in my database. It's absorbing the radar signals rather than reflecting them. Nathan approached the entrance, which was partially concealed by massive tree roots. Centuries-old vines had worked their way between stone blocks, yet the structural integrity remained remarkably intact. He brushed away layers of moss to reveal intricate carvings, the same mathematical patterns they'd been tracking across continents. "Maya, look at this," he called. "The sequence continues here." She photographed the symbols, her expression growing increasingly perplexed. "These aren't just decorative. They're functional. Look at how they align with the sun's position." Carlos, who had been scouting the perimeter, called out suddenly, "Dr. Cole, you should see this." 20 feet from the main entrance, partially buried in soil and vegetation, was a metal rod about 2 feet long. Carlos carefully extracted it, revealing gleaming metal untarnished by time. "That's impossible," James said, taking readings with a handheld device. "The soil composition here would corrode any known metal within decades, let alone centuries." Nathan examined the celestial alignment rod closely. It had multiple rings that could rotate around the central shaft, each marked with precise notches and symbols. This isn't primitive technology. The machining precision would challenge modern manufacturing. The locals mentioned a tool used by the sky visitors to measure the paths between stars, Carlos said. Could this be it? As Nathan manipulated the rings, sunlight passed through the aligned notches, projecting a complex pattern onto the temple wall. The shadows formed what looked unmistakably like mathematical equations. "It's a calculating device," Maya whispered. "Those equations, they're mapping celestial movements." James checked his equipment again, frowning. "We're getting electromagnetic readings off the charts. Something inside the temple is generating a field. I've seen similar equations in quantum physics textbooks," Nathan said, continuing to adjust the rings. "But these are far more complex." As the final ring clicked into place, a low humming sound emerged from deep within the temple. The ground beneath their feet vibrated subtly. "What did you do?" Maya asked, her voice tense. "I think I just solved the equation," Nathan replied, equally unsettled. The team cautiously entered the temple, their flashlights revealing a main chamber with soaring ceilings and walls covered in the same mathematical symbols. The floor was inlaid with a complex circular pattern, reminiscent of an astronomical chart. James set up additional sensors, his concern growing. The electromagnetic disturbance is strongest toward the eastern passage. They followed the narrow corridor, which sloped gently downward. The air grew noticeably cooler, with a faint metallic scent. Their flashlight beams caught glimpses of unusual surfaces embedded within the stone walls, reflective patches that didn't match any known ancient material. "These walls," Maya said, running her fingers along the surface, "they're not just stone. There's something beneath them." The passage opened into a second chamber, smaller but more precisely constructed. At its center stood what appeared to be an observation platform, aligned with a circular opening in the ceiling, positioned to capture specific celestial events. Nathan placed the alignment rod in a depression on the platform that matched its dimensions perfectly. The moment it connected, the humming intensified. "Nathan, I think we should step back," James warned, his instruments now emitting a high-pitched alert. Too late. The rod began to rotate on its own, its rings shifting into new configurations. Light from above, ordinary sunlight, struck the device and split into prismatic beams that danced across the chamber walls, illuminating previously invisible markings. "It's a key," Nathan breathed, watching the spectacle unfold. The temple was waiting for the right tool. A grinding sound echoed through the chamber as a section of the floor began to retract, revealing a staircase descending into darkness, and from that darkness came the faint but unmistakable pulsing of blue light. The same light from Nathan's dreams. The stairs descended in a perfect spiral, each step identical in dimension, a precision that would challenge modern construction techniques. James led the way, his handheld device mapping the electromagnetic fluctuations that grew stronger with each level they descended. "The readings are off the charts," he muttered, adjusting the sensitivity. "Whatever's generating this field, it's been active for... I can't even calculate how long." The air grew notably cooler, with a strange electric quality that made the hair on their arms stand on end. The blue, pulsing light intensified as they approached the bottom of the staircase, casting eerie shadows across ancient walls that appeared too smooth, too perfect. "Look at this," Maya said, running her fingers along the wall. "No tool marks, no seams. How did they achieve this level of craftsmanship?" The staircase opened into a vast circular chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness above. The source of the blue light remained hidden, but its reflections danced across surfaces that were decidedly not stone. Metal panels lined portions of the walls, their composition unlike any ancient alloy archaeologists had ever documented. "This shouldn't exist," Nathan whispered, his voice echoing slightly. "Not at this time depth. Not with this level of technology." Carlos, who had remained unusually quiet, suddenly pointed toward an alcove. "There's something there." Within the recess sat an object that resembled a tuning fork, though far larger and more complex than any musical instrument. Its metal surface gleamed as if newly forged, with no corrosion despite centuries, perhaps millennia, underground. "Don't touch it," James warned, but Nathan was already moving forward, drawn by some inexplicable compulsion. As his fingers closed around the resonance tuning fork, a vibration traveled up his arm. Not unpleasant, but alien, a sensation that seemed to connect directly with his nervous system. "It's warm," he reported, holding it carefully. "And there's a very subtle vibration." Maya examined the symbols etched along its length. "These match the equations we saw upstairs, but they're more complex. If I'm interpreting correctly, these might be frequency notations." James directed his scanning equipment toward the artifact. "It's generating its own electromagnetic field, interacting with the larger field in the chamber." Nathan raised the tuning fork, studying it in the blue light. Two metal tines extended from a precision-crafted handle with small adjustable components that could alter the instrument's resonance. "I think it's a key," he said, "or a tool of some kind." "Nathan, I'm serious. We should document this thoroughly before interacting with anything," Maya cautioned. "This goes beyond any established archaeological protocol." But an archaeologist's instincts, honed over decades of fieldwork, sometimes override caution. Nathan gently struck one tine against his palm. The fork emitted a tone so pure it seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly within their minds. The blue light pulsed in synchronization with the sound. Throughout the chamber, previously invisible seams illuminated in response. "It's activating something," James said, his voice tense as he watched his equipment readings spike dramatically. Carlos backed toward the staircase. "The local said the temple breathes, that it responds to those who know how to speak to it." As the tone faded, a new sound emerged, the unmistakable mechanical whisper of machinery in motion. A section of the wall before them receded smoothly, revealing a corridor they hadn't detected during their initial scan. "That's impossible," James whispered. "Functional machinery after all this time?" The newly revealed passage led deeper into the complex, its walls lined with the same strange metal. At its end, visible even from where they stood, was the outline of a massive door, a door that shouldn't have existed in an ancient temple. "Steel," James confirmed, after scanning from a distance. "But not steel as we know it. The composition is. I don't have a reference point for this alloy. The door stood at least 12 feet high, its surface etched with mathematical formulas of staggering complexity. Unlike the organic curves of typical ancient carvings, these were precise, angular, reminiscent of circuit diagrams and quantum equations. "This is what we've been looking for," Nathan said, his voice barely audible. "The connection point. The evidence that someone, something, shared advanced knowledge with ancient cultures." Maya studied the door with growing concern. "The village elder warned us. He said some doors were meant to stay closed." As they approached, a subtle change occurred. The metal surface seemed to react to their presence. The door vibrated faintly under Nathan's palm when he finally reached out to touch it. "It's warm," he reported, "and I swear I can feel a pulse." Carlos, still hanging back, voiced what they all felt but couldn't explain. "Dr. Cole, that door isn't just machinery. It's waiting for something, or someone. We need to document everything before we attempt to open it," Maya insisted, setting up her camera equipment. The massive door loomed before them, its metallic surface defying everything they understood about ancient metallurgy. Nathan nodded reluctantly, scientific training temporarily overriding his burning curiosity. "James, can you get mineral composition readings without direct contact?" "Already scanning," James replied, sweeping his handheld device methodically across the door's surface. "This alloy? It contains elements I can't even identify. The molecular structure is unlike anything in our database." Carlos kept his distance, eyes constantly shifting to the shadows that seemed to move with the pulsing blue light. "The air feels different here, heavier." As they worked, Nathan noticed something unusual about the walls flanking the massive door. Unlike the stone and metal hybrid construction they'd seen elsewhere in the temple, these panels had a smooth, glass-like quality. When he approached for a closer look, the surface began to glow faintly. "Maya," he called softly, "look at this." As Maya joined him, the illumination intensified. Beneath the translucent surface, complex equations began to appear, not carved or painted, but somehow forming within the material itself. "It's responding to our presence," James said, redirecting his sensors. "The panels are generating their own light source, but there's no heat signature." Maya photographed the equations as they formed, her expression shifting from skepticism to wonder. "These are the same mathematical principles we've been tracking, but far more advanced. This equation here, it looks like a calculation for gravitational waves, but with variables I don't recognize. Could it be instructions?" Nathan suggested, moving slowly along the wall. As he did, the equations shifted, new formulas replacing the previous ones. James compared readings from his device with the displayed equations. "This isn't just mathematics, it's a language. Look how the formulas respond when we move to different positions. It's interactive." Nathan's academic skepticism battled with the evidence before his eyes. No ancient civilization possessed this kind of technology. This is beyond even what we can create today. Unless they had help, Maya said quietly. The implications hung in the air between them. Years of research, of following mathematical patterns across supposedly unconnected ancient sites, had led them to this moment, facing evidence that challenged the entire established chronology of human technological development. Nathan approached the door again, studying the central locking mechanism. The luminous panels seemed to respond to his focused attention, displaying new equations that appeared to relate directly to the door's operation. "I think it's showing us how to open it," he said. "Or warning us not to," Carlos countered. James analyzed the changing equations. "These look like frequency harmonics. Remember the tuning fork we found?" Nathan retrieved the resonance tuning fork from his pack. As he held it near the door, both the fork and the door emitted a subtle vibration, as if recognizing each other. "The equations," Maya observed, "they're showing resonance patterns, specific frequencies." Nathan adjusted the tuning fork's components according to the patterns displayed on the luminous panels. When he struck it against his palm, the resulting tone was deeper, more complex than before. The effect was immediate. The door's surface rippled as if suddenly fluid, the mathematical etchings glowing with the same blue light that permeated the chamber. A low humming filled the air, building in intensity until they could feel it in their bones. "Should we be doing this?" Maya's voice betrayed her conflicted emotions, scientific curiosity warring with instinctive caution. Before Nathan could respond, a series of mechanical clicks emanated from within the door. The massive slab of impossible metal began to move, sliding sideways with precision that defied its apparent age and mass. Cold air rushed past them from the newly revealed chamber beyond. The blue light intensified, now clearly emanating from multiple sources within the hidden room. "Oxygen levels normal," James reported, checking his equipment. "Temperature approximately 15 degrees Celsius. No detectable toxins." Nathan took a cautious step toward the opening. The luminous equation panels flanking the doorway changed again, displaying what appeared to be a welcome or a warning. "What do they say?" Carlos asked, still maintaining his distance. Maya studied the symbols, her expertise in ancient languages now merging with her understanding of the mathematical patterns. "It's not a direct translation, but the closest approximation would be, 'The worthy may enter. The unprepared will be transformed.'" The team exchanged uneasy glances. Transformed how? James voiced the question they were all considering. Nathan stared into the chamber beyond, where reflective surfaces caught and multiplied the pulsing blue light. At the center stood a solitary chair, its design unlike anything from the historical record. "There's only one way to find out," he said, and stepped through the doorway. "We need to document everything before we attempt to open it," Maya insisted, setting up her camera equipment. The massive door loomed before them, its metallic surface defying everything they understood about ancient metallurgy. Nathan nodded reluctantly, scientific training temporarily overriding his burning curiosity. "James, can you get mineral composition readings without direct contact?" "Already scanning," James replied, sweeping his handheld device methodically across the door's surface. "This alloy? It contains elements I can't even identify. The molecular structure is unlike anything in our database." Carlos kept his distance, eyes constantly shifting to the shadows that seemed to move with the pulsing blue light. "The air feels different here, heavier." As they worked, Nathan noticed something unusual about the walls flanking the massive door. Unlike the stone and metal hybrid construction they'd seen elsewhere in the temple, these panels had a smooth, glass-like quality. When he approached for a closer look, the surface began to glow faintly. "Maya," he called softly, "look at this." As Maya joined him, the illumination intensified. Beneath the translucent surface, complex equations began to appear, not carved or painted, but somehow forming within the material itself. "It's responding to our presence," James said, redirecting his senses. The panels are generating their own light source, but there's no heat signature. Maya photographed the equations as they formed, her expression shifting from skepticism to wonder. These are the same mathematical principles we've been tracking, but far more advanced. This equation here, it looks like a calculation for gravitational waves, but with variables I don't recognize. Could it be instructions? Nathan suggested, moving slowly along the wall. As he did, the equations shifted, new formulas replacing the previous ones. James compared readings from his device with the displayed equations. This isn't just mathematics, it's a language. Look how the formulas respond when we move to different positions. It's interactive. Nathan's academic skepticism battled with the evidence before his eyes. No ancient civilization possessed this kind of technology. This is beyond even what we can create today. Unless they had help, Maya said quietly. The implications hung in the air between them. Years of research, of following mathematical patterns across supposedly unconnected ancient sites, had led them to this moment, facing evidence that challenged the entire established chronology of human technological development. Nathan approached the door again, studying the central locking mechanism. The luminous panels seemed to respond to his focused attention, displaying new equations that appeared to relate directly to the door's operation. "I think it's showing us how to open it," he said. "Or warning us not to," Carlos countered. James analyzed the changing equations. "These look like frequency harmonics. Remember the tuning fork we found?" Nathan retrieved the resonance tuning fork from his pack. As he held it near the door, both the fork and the door emitted a subtle vibration, as if recognizing each other. "The equations," Maya observed, "they're showing resonance patterns, specific frequencies." Nathan adjusted the tuning fork's components according to the patterns displayed on the luminous panels. When he struck it against his palm, the resulting tone was deeper, more complex than before. The effect was immediate. The door's surface rippled as if suddenly fluid, the mathematical etchings glowing with the same blue light that permeated the chamber. A low humming filled the air, building in intensity until they could feel it in their bones. "Should we be doing this?" Maya's voice betrayed her conflicted emotions, scientific curiosity warring with instinctive caution. Before Nathan could respond, a series of mechanical clicks emanated from within the door. The massive slab of impossible metal began to move, sliding sideways with precision that defied its apparent age and mass. Cold air rushed past them from the newly revealed chamber beyond. The blue light intensified, now clearly emanating from multiple sources within the hidden room. "Oxygen levels normal," James reported, checking his equipment. "Temperature approximately 15 degrees Celsius. No detectable toxins." Nathan took a cautious step toward the opening. The luminous equation panels flanking the doorway changed, again displaying what appeared to be a welcome or a warning. "What do they say?" Carlos asked, still maintaining his distance. Maya studied the symbols, her expertise in ancient languages now merging with her understanding of the mathematical patterns. "It's not a direct translation, but the closest approximation would be, 'The worthy may enter. The unprepared will be transformed.'" The team exchanged uneasy glances. "Transformed how?" James voiced the question they were all considering. Nathan stared into the chamber beyond, where reflective surfaces caught and multiplied the pulsing blue light. At the center stood a solitary chair, its design unlike anything from the historical record. "There's only one way to find out," he said, and stepped through the doorway. "We need to set up a proper research station," Maya insisted, establishing a perimeter of equipment around the chamber. "This discovery requires methodical documentation." 1 week had passed since they'd first entered the mirror chamber, and the team had established a careful protocol for their investigation. Each new finding was meticulously recorded, each artifact catalogued and analyzed with every tool at their disposal. James had built an improvised interface between his modern equipment and the ancient technology, using electromagnetic signatures to establish rudimentary communication. The system recognizes our presence, but it's waiting for something more. Nathan spent hours studying the reflective matrices, documenting the mathematical patterns they displayed. These equations describe principles of quantum mechanics that we've only recently begun to theorize. Some go well beyond our current understanding. Carlos had been making regular trips between the temple and the village, noting strange occurrences that had begun affecting the surrounding area. "The local plants are growing at accelerated rates," he reported, showing photographs of jungle foliage with abnormal growth patterns. "And the villagers say animals are behaving oddly, all moving away from the temple as if fleeing something." On the 8th day, Maya discovered a hidden compartment within the chair's base. The panel slid open at her touch, revealing a circular object nestled in a protective housing. It resembled a thin metallic circlet with delicate filaments extending inward from the main band. "It looks almost like a crown," she said, carefully lifting it for examination. James scanned it immediately. "The filaments are made of the same, unidentifiable conductive material we've found throughout the complex. They're designed to make contact with specific points on the human scalp." "A neural interface?" Nathan suggested, his scientific skepticism battling with the evidence before them. "That technology shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years at least," Maya countered. "Even our most advanced brain-computer interfaces are primitive compared to this. They place the neural interface circlet on a workstation for further study. Even detached from the chair, it emitted a faint energy signature that James's equipment could detect." "It's still active," he confirmed. "Waiting for input? Connection? I'm not sure." Nathan found himself drawn to the device, an inexplicable familiarity tugging at his mind. "The reflective matrices have been showing us information about neural pathways. I think they've been preparing us to understand this." "Understand, yes. Not use," Maya emphasized. "We have no idea what this technology might do to a human brain." That night, as the others slept in their makeshift camp outside the chamber, Nathan returned alone. The blue light seemed to pulse in welcome as he entered, the reflective matrices shifting to create new patterns that hadn't appeared before. The neural interface circlet sat where they had left it, but now it seemed to glow faintly in the ambient light. Nathan approached carefully, scientific training warring with an almost instinctual understanding that had been growing within him since they discovered the temple. "What were you designed to do?" he whispered, carefully lifting the circlet. It felt warm in his hands, the delicate filaments flexing slightly as if alive. The chair at the center of the room hummed in response, its components shifting subtly into a new configuration. Nathan knew he should wait, should follow proper research protocols, should consult with the team. But something deeper than academic curiosity was driving him now, a sense that he was meant to understand what this place truly was. He sat in the chair, the circlet held carefully above his head. "Just for a moment," he told himself. "Just to see if there's a response." As the circlet lowered toward his head, the reflective matrices spun into a new arrangement. Light beams crisscrossed the chamber, creating a cocoon of illuminated information around the chair. The filaments of the circlet extended slightly, reaching for specific points on his scalp. "Contact!" Nathan gasped as information flooded his consciousness, not in words or images, but in pure conceptual understanding. Mathematical principles, quantum relationships, stellar cartography. Knowledge poured into his mind in a form more direct than language could ever convey. He saw the temple's purpose with sudden clarity, not just a research station or observatory, but a developmental acceleration node, one of many placed across Earth by visitors who had been guiding human evolution for millennia. the chair released him after only seconds, though it felt like hours had passed. The circlet lifted away automatically, returning to its compartment. Nathan sat trembling, his mind reeling from the download of information. When Maya found him there at dawn, he was still in the chair, staring at the reflective matrices with new understanding. "I know what this place is," he said without turning, "and I know why it's activating now." "What happened?" she demanded, noting his dilated pupils and the faint blue glow that seemed to linger behind his eyes. "They're coming back," he whispered. "The visitors. After 10,000 years, they're returning to check on our progress." Outside, the jungle had fallen unnaturally silent, as if the entire ecosystem were holding its breath. "You should never have used the interface without protocols." "In place," Maya scolded, examining Nathan's pupils with a penlight. 2 days had passed since his unauthorized experiment with the neural interface circlet, and the team remained divided over his actions. "I didn't have a choice," Nathan insisted. "The knowledge was time-sensitive. I can feel it. Something's approaching Earth, something connected to this site." James monitored the increasing electromagnetic anomalies throughout the temple complex. Whatever happened to Nathan, it corresponds with measurable changes in the site's energy output. The temple is becoming more active daily. They had established a more permanent research base in the outer chambers, bringing in additional equipment and supplies. Carlos made regular trips to the village, returning with increasingly concerning reports. "The locals say time feels wrong," he explained during their morning briefing. "Days seem shorter or longer than they should be. Some claim to have seen people who disappeared years ago, just walking through the village before vanishing again. Temporal anomalies." Nathan nodded, as if this confirmed something he already knew. "The site isn't just spatially unique. It exists partially outside normal time flow. In the central chamber, the reflective matrices had begun displaying new information, complex temporal equations, and multidimensional models. Nathan worked feverishly to document and interpret them, his understanding seemingly enhanced by his connection with the neural interface. During their 3rd week of research, James discovered a sealed compartment beneath the chamber floor. When opened, it revealed a device unlike any they had encountered. A spherical mechanism supported by a tripod base, with concentric rings that rotated independently around a crystalline core. The chronometric resonator. Nathan identified it immediately, though he couldn't explain how he knew its name. The device activated as soon as it was completely unearthed, the rings beginning to rotate slowly while the crystal core emitted a soft amber glow. Above it, the air shimmered like a heat mirage, forming what appeared to be a 3-dimensional projection space. "It's measuring time," Nathan explained, watching the rings adjust their positions. "Not just linear time as we understand it, but potential temporal variations, parallel possibilities." Maya approached cautiously, her scientific skepticism battling with the undeniable evidence before her. "That's theoretical physics, Nathan. We don't have technology that can observe multiple timelines." "We don't," he agreed, "but they did." The chronometric resonator's projection space suddenly filled with images, flickering scenes of the temple throughout different time periods. They watched in astonishment as the chamber appeared and disappeared, sometimes occupied by beings similar to humans, but with subtle anatomical differences, sometimes empty for centuries. "It's showing us the site's history," James realized, recording the projection with his equipment, "and possibly its future." The scenes shifted to show various human civilizations interacting with the temple technology. Ancient peoples being instructed by the taller beings, receiving knowledge that sparked developmental leaps in mathematics, astronomy, and physics. "The visitor legends were real," Carlos whispered. "They've been guiding human development for millennia." As the projection continued, it showed more recent interactions. Explorers from various historical periods discovering the temple, some fleeing in fear, others staying to learn. Most disturbing were the images of those who misused the technology, their bodies transforming in unsettling ways before the temple system shut down to prevent further access. The temple has been protecting itself, Nathan noted, waiting for humans who could understand its purpose without abusing it. The final sequence showed present day, their own discovery of the site, but then continued forward, displaying events that hadn't yet occurred. A celestial object approaching Earth, the temple fully activating, a choice being presented. Before they could see the outcome, the projection dissolved into static. It's showing probabilistic futures, Nathan explained. Multiple potential outcomes, depending on decisions not yet made. That evening, as they processed their findings, James's instruments detected unusual activity from the chronometric resonator. The device had begun cycling through temporal frequencies, its rings spinning faster while the crystal core pulsed with increasing intensity. It's searching for something specific, Nathan said, watching the patterns. A particular temporal signature. The resonator suddenly locked onto a frequency, its components freezing in position while the projection space flared brightly. Within it appeared a single image, a star-like object moving through space on a direct course toward Earth. "That's what's coming," Nathan whispered. "What the temple has been waiting for." James checked astronomical databases on his satellite uplink. "There's nothing recorded that matches this object's trajectory or signature, because it exists partially outside normal space-time," Nathan replied. Knowledge he couldn't explain continuing to surface in his consciousness. "Conventional astronomy can't detect it yet." Maya studied the projection with growing concern. "How long do we have?" The chronometric resonator answered before Nathan could, its projection shifting to display what appeared to be a countdown. Mathematical symbols representing temporal measurements. 3 months, Nathan translated. "Whatever's coming will reach Earth in approximately 3 months. Carlos voiced the question they were all thinking. "And what happens then?" The resonator's projection flickered between two distinct outcomes, one showing devastation, the other transformation. Neither outcome was entirely clear, as if the final result remained undetermined. "I think," Nathan said slowly, "that depends on us." The morning air felt charged as the team gathered in the main chamber, their research equipment now crowding the ancient space. 1 month had passed since the chronometric resonator's revelation, and tension had grown palpable as they worked to understand what was approaching Earth. "Government satellites have detected an anomaly," James reported, checking his encrypted communications. His connections in the aerospace sector had been providing classified information. "They're describing it as a gravitational disturbance moving toward our solar system, though conventional telescopes can't visualize it properly." Maya had been working to translate the mathematical symbols displayed throughout the temple. Her expertise in ancient languages now applied to what appeared to be a universal mathematical communication system. "These equations aren't just descriptive, they're prescriptive. They're telling us how to prepare for what's coming." Nathan spent most of his time with the reflective matrices, his connection to the temple's systems growing stronger since his experience with the neural interface. The blue glow occasionally reappeared behind his eyes when he worked directly with the ancient technology. "I keep seeing references to previous cycles," he explained during their daily briefing. "This isn't the first time they've returned to Earth. They've been coming periodically throughout human history, each visit corresponding with major evolutionary or civilizational leaps." Carlos, who continued to monitor conditions in the surrounding area, reported increasing anomalies. "The temporal distortions are spreading. Villagers report seeing people from different time periods. One elderly man claims he saw his younger self walking through his garden. During their exploration of a newly discovered section of the temple, Maya found a sealed chamber containing what appeared to be data storage devices, crystalline structures arranged in geometric patterns around a central access point. The temporal archives. Nathan identified them. again unable to explain the source of his knowledge. Unlike previous artifacts, these crystals remained inert when the team attempted to interact with them. No amount of scanning or testing elicited any response from the geometrically perfect structures. Their information storage, Nathan explained, but they require specific access protocols, neural frequency patterns that match certain authorization levels. In plain English? James asked. They'll only respond to specific types of brain activity, Nathan clarified. Thought patterns that demonstrate sufficient understanding of the concepts contained within. Maya studied the central access point, a recessed panel with a depression shaped to fit a human hand. So these archives contain what? Historical records? Scientific knowledge? Everything, Nathan said softly. The complete history of the visitors' interactions with Earth, their observations of our development, their interventions and experiments. The implications hung heavy in the air between them. If Nathan was right, these crystals contained the truth behind human evolution and civilization, answers to questions that had plagued philosophers, scientists and theologians for centuries. We need access, James stated the obvious. If we're going to understand what's coming and how to prepare, we need what's in those archives. Nathan approached the central panel, examining the hand-shaped depression. I think my neural patterns might be compatible now. The neural interface changed something in my brain's electrical activity. Maya moved to block his path. Nathan, we agreed. No more unauthorized interactions with the technology. We don't know what these systems might do to you. We're running out of time, he countered, gesturing to the chronometric resonator's countdown, which now showed less than 60 days remaining. Whatever's coming, it's connected to this site, to these visitors. We need to understand their intentions. After heated debate, the team established safety protocols for a controlled attempt to access the archives. James set up monitoring equipment to track Nathan's vital signs and brain activity. Carlos prepared emergency medical supplies. Maya documented everything with obsessive thoroughness. When preparations were complete, Nathan placed his hand into the depression on the central panel. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then a soft amber light began to emanate from beneath his palm, spreading through the crystalline structures in pulsing waves. Nathan's eyes widened, then glazed slightly as information began transferring directly to his consciousness. His body remained still, but his face cycled through expressions of wonder, fear, and understanding. The transfer lasted exactly 3 minutes before the light receded and Nathan stumbled backward, caught by Carlos before he could fall. Are you all right? Maya demanded, examining him for signs of harm. Nathan nodded slowly, his eyes refocusing on his surroundings. I'm fine. Better than fine. I understand now. Understand what? James asked, checking his readings. Everything, Nathan whispered. Why they came. Why they helped us evolve. Why they're returning now. He turned to face the team, his expression grave yet filled with wonder. They're not our creators, he explained, but our gardeners. They've been cultivating intelligence across thousands of worlds, guiding species toward a specific developmental threshold. And humanity? Maya prompted. Have we reached this threshold? Nathan glanced toward the chronometric resonator's countdown. That's what they're returning to determine. Whether we're ready for the next phase, or whether our development needs to be adjusted. The unspoken implication sent a chill through the chamber. Whatever was approaching Earth wasn't simply coming to observe. It was coming to judge. The tension within the research team had reached a breaking point. 6 weeks into their discovery, with the countdown showing just over 40 days remaining, the implications of what they'd uncovered had become too profound to contain within their small group. The world governments need to be informed, Maya argued during their morning briefing. This isn't just an archaeological discovery anymore. It's a potential first contact scenario with global implications. And tell them what exactly, Nathan countered. That ancient astronauts have been guiding human evolution and are returning to judge our progress. Will be dismissed as crackpots or worse, detained as security threats. James, who had been monitoring increasing governmental interest in their expedition, sided with caution. Military satellites have definitively confirmed an approaching anomaly. Intelligence agencies are already investigating. It's only a matter of time before they track the source of the electromagnetic signatures to this location. The debate was interrupted when Carlos rushed into the chamber, his expression grave. Government officials are in the village. They're asking questions about our expedition. The team retreated deeper into the temple complex, establishing a secondary base in a chamber adjacent to the mirror room. As they transferred essential equipment, Nathan found himself drawn to a previously unexplored alcove, where the blue light seemed particularly concentrated. Within the recess sat an octahedral device approximately the size of a basketball, constructed from the same unidentifiable metal they'd encountered throughout the temple. Its surface featured no obvious controls or interfaces, yet it emitted a soft hum that resonated at the edge of human hearing. When Nathan approached, the device activated immediately. The space above it shimmered, coalescing into a three-dimensional projection of extraordinary clarity and detail. The holographic display showed a star map with hundreds of worlds connected by glowing pathways. "James! Maya, you need to see this!" he called out. The team gathered around the projection as it zoomed in to focus on one particular star system, our own. Earth appeared as a blue-green sphere, surrounded by data in the visitor's mathematical language. "The Species Development Codex," Nathan whispered, the name coming to him as it had with previous artifacts. Maya studied the symbols with growing comprehension. "It's a database. Each of these worlds has been monitored, cultivated." The projection shifted in response to their questions, as if the device could sense their curiosity. It displayed a timeline of Earth's evolutionary history, with specific points highlighted where rapid advancement had occurred. "Intervention points," Nathan explained, understanding flowing from his altered neural pathways. "Moments when the visitors accelerated natural evolutionary processes or introduced beneficial mutations." The hologram showed stylized representations of early hominids being subtly modified, their cranial capacity expanding over generations. Later sections displayed knowledge transfer, early humans being taught principles of mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and agriculture. "This confirms everything," James breathed. "They've been guiding our development for millions of years," the projection continued, showing Earth's designation within a broader program, a particularly promising test case due to the planet's biodiversity and the adaptability of its dominant species. Most disturbing was the classification system that became apparent as the presentation continued. Worlds were categorized by developmental stage, with decision points marked at critical evolutionary junctures. Some branches led to continued development, others to what appeared to be intervention or, in certain cases, termination. "They're evaluating us," Carlos said, his voice barely audible. "Like some kind of cosmic examination." The codex projection shifted again, displaying the approaching object that the chronometric resonator had identified. It wasn't a conventional spacecraft, but something far more complex. A multidimensional entity that existed partially outside normal spacetime, capable of traversing vast cosmic distances by moving through higher dimensions. "It's not coming to destroy us," Nathan said, information continuing to surface from his enhanced understanding. "It's coming to assess our readiness for the next phase of development, and if we're found wanting." Maya asked the question they all feared to voice. The projection answered by displaying historical records of other worlds. Some showed thriving civilizations advancing beyond Earth's current level. Others showed developmental resets, catastrophic events that had reduced promising species to earlier stages, allowing for redirection of their evolutionary path. "They've never completely eliminated a species," Nathan noted, studying the data. "But they have corrected course when development proceeded in undesirable directions. As the implications sank in, the chamber's entrance suddenly filled with harsh white light. The sound of helicopter rotors penetrated even the thick temple walls. Military, James confirmed, checking a monitoring device he'd placed near the entrance. U.S. Special Forces by the looks of the equipment. They must have tracked our communications. The species development codex projection flickered and expanded, displaying one final crucial piece of information. The temple itself was a testing ground. How humans responded to the discovery, how they handled the knowledge and technology within, was the final examination before the visitors' return. "We need to make a decision," Nathan said urgently as the sounds of boots on stone echoed down the corridors. "Do we share what we've learned or protect it?" The answer would determine not just their own fates, but potentially the future course of human civilization. "We hide the critical artifacts," Nathan decided as military footsteps echoed through the temple corridors. "James, activate the electromagnetic disruptors you set up. Maya, collect the most important documentation. Carlos, you know hidden paths through the jungle. We need an escape route." The team moved with practiced efficiency, having prepared for this possibility. James activated devices that would temporarily scramble electronic equipment, buying them precious time. Maya secured their research data on encrypted drives. While Carlos unfolded a map of secondary tunnel systems he'd discovered beneath the temple. As they retreated deeper into the complex, a section of walls slid open unexpectedly, revealing a chamber they hadn't previously detected. Inside was a perfect hemisphere recessed into the floor, its surface composed of the same reflective material as the knowledge matrices. "Another hidden room," Maya whispered as they slipped inside. The wall, closing seamlessly behind them, the hemispherical depression was approximately 20 feet in diameter, with a small platform at its center. As they entered, soft blue illumination activated automatically, emanating from the curved surface. "It's some kind of observatory," James suggested. Scanning the room with his remaining functional equipment, Nathan stepped onto the central platform, drawn by the same intuitive connection that had guided him throughout their discovery. The moment his feet touched the raised dais, the chamber transformed. The hemispherical surface came alive with light, projecting a breathtaking recreation of the cosmos surrounding them. Stars, nebula, galaxies, all rendered with perfect clarity and three-dimensional depth. The team found themselves standing in what appeared to be open space. The temple walls no longer visible behind the stellar panorama. The celestial observatory sphere, Nathan identified it. Information continuing to flow from his enhanced neural pathways. The projection focused initially on Earth's solar system, then expanded outward to show our galaxy and beyond. A distinctive energy signature appeared at the edge of the observable universe, the approaching entity they had detected through the chronometric resonator. "It's showing us the visitor's approach path," James realized, watching as the projection illustrated the entity's trajectory through space-time. "But look, it's not coming in a straight line. It's moving in a spiral pattern, touching multiple star systems. The observatory revealed something the previous artifacts had only hinted at, the cyclical nature of the visitor's approaches to Earth. The projection displayed historical approaches dating back millions of years, each corresponding with significant evolutionary leaps or civilizational advancements. Most revealing was the pattern that emerged when viewed from this cosmic perspective. The entity wasn't simply returning on a regular schedule. It was following a grand mathematical pattern, a cosmic algorithm that determined which developing worlds would be visited and when. "It's all mathematics," Maya breathed, watching the elegant spiral unfold across space and time. "Their entire program of species development follows mathematical principles we're only beginning to understand." The projection highlighted Earth's position in this grand equation, a node of particular importance in the visitor's calculations. Other worlds appeared briefly, some thriving, others reset to earlier developmental stages or apparently abandoned, We're not the only experiment, Nathan explained, as understanding continued to crystallize in his mind. But we are among the most promising. They've invested more intervention cycles in Earth than in most other worlds. The projection suddenly shifted focus, zooming in to show Earth's near future. The approaching entity would not physically enter the atmosphere, but would establish a field effect, encompassing the entire planet, a temporary intersection of higher dimensional space with our reality. It's a testing phase, Nathan continued. The temple is an evaluation center. How we respond to the knowledge and technology here demonstrates our species' readiness for advancement. Carlos, who had been keeping watch near the hidden entrance, turned with a troubled expression. You mean the military's arrival is part of the test? Everything is, Nathan confirmed. How humanity handles this discovery, whether through cooperation, secrecy, military control, or open sharing, determines our evaluation. The projection displayed possible outcomes based on different human responses. Cooperation and thoughtful application of the knowledge led to advancement, a harmonious integration of the visitor's technology with human civilization. Military control or exploitative approaches triggered intervention, not destruction, but a developmental reset that would allow the species another chance to evolve along more beneficial paths. The implications paralyzed them momentarily. Their decisions over the next hours wouldn't just affect their personal fates, but could potentially determine humanity's developmental trajectory for millennia to come. Their reflection was interrupted by the sound of scanning equipment outside their hidden chamber. The military teams were using advanced technology to map the temple's interior. They'll find us soon, James warned, checking his monitoring devices. Maya turned to Nathan, her expression resolute. What do we do? If this is truly a test of human readiness, what's the right response? The celestial observatory continued its projection, the approaching entity now visibly closer in the cosmic display. According to the timeline, they had just 38 days before its arrival. We need to demonstrate that humanity is ready for advancement, Nathan said finally. Not through confrontation, but through understanding. He stepped from the platform, the stellar projection fading but not disappearing entirely. We're going to meet them, openly and honestly. We're going to show them that at least some humans comprehend the responsibility that comes with this knowledge. The wall began to slide open as military scanning equipment detected their location. The team faced the entrance, prepared to make humanity's case for advancement rather than reset. The fate of human civilization might depend on what happened next. Light flooded the chamber as the wall slid completely open. 4 soldiers in advanced tactical gear stood in the entrance, weapons raised but not firing. Behind them, a man in civilian clothes observed with calculating eyes. Dr. Cole, the civilian said, stepping forward. I'm Director Warren Hayes, Department of Special Sciences. We've been monitoring your communications for weeks. Nathan straightened, meeting the man's gaze directly. Then you know what we've discovered here. This goes beyond national security, beyond Earth politics. This concerns our entire species. Hayes' expression revealed nothing. That's precisely why we're here. This facility is now under government protection. Your team will brief our scientists on everything you've found. It wasn't the confrontation they'd expected. Instead of immediate detention, they found themselves working alongside a rapidly deployed scientific team. Hayes had brought archaeologists, linguists, and physicists, all with high security clearances and open minds. We've been tracking the approaching anomaly for months, Hayes explained during their initial briefing. Multiple governments have observed it, though we've maintained public silence to prevent panic. Over the next 3 days, Nathan's team shared their discoveries, while military personnel established a secure perimeter around the temple. The government scientists were skeptical at first, but the evidence was irrefutable, especially when they witnessed the temple's active technology firsthand. On the 4th day, as they explored a previously sealed section of the complex, they discovered a chamber containing what appeared to be a transmission system. Towering crystalline spires, arranged in a precise geometric pattern, surrounded a central control platform. Each spire hummed with energy, occasionally discharging small arcs of blue electricity between components. The dimensional communication array. Nathan identified it immediately. His enhanced neural patterns recognizing the technology from information received through the temple's systems. Hayes approached cautiously. "Oh, what does it do?" "It's designed to communicate across dimensional boundaries," Nathan explained, "to establish contact with the entity that's approaching Earth." The government scientists began scanning and analyzing the array, while Maya worked to translate the control symbols. James found power conduits connecting the array to deeper energy sources beneath the temple, the same geothermal taps that had kept the facility operational for millennia. "It requires precise calibration," Nathan warned as the scientists began probing the system. "The energies involved in trans-dimensional communication are potentially catastrophic if mishandled." Hayes pulled Nathan aside, speaking quietly. "Can we use this to send them a message?" "To negotiate." "It's not about negotiation," Nathan replied. "It's about demonstration, proving that we understand the responsibility that comes with advancement." As the countdown approached 30 days, the team worked frantically to decode the array's operation. The military presence continued to grow, with specialized equipment and additional personnel arriving daily. International tensions had begun to rise as other governments detected the activity and demanded information. Russia and China have both identified the anomaly. Hayes informed them during a late-night briefing. "They're preparing their own responses." "We need to establish communication first." Nathan spent hours with the array's control systems, his enhanced neural pathways allowing him to perceive patterns and connections invisible to others. Maya worked alongside him, translating the mathematical language that served as the operating instructions. "It's not designed for verbal communication," she realized. "It transmits pure conceptual information, mathematical principles that transcend linguistic limitations." James analyzed the power requirements, concern growing as he calculated the energies involved. When fully activated, this array will draw more power than a small city. The feedback could be dangerous. Carlos, who had been maintaining communication with the villagers, reported growing unease among the local population. "They say the jungle itself is preparing. Animals are behaving strangely. Plants are growing in unusual patterns. They believe the sky visitors are already watching." On the 28th day, before projected arrival, Nathan made a breakthrough in understanding the array's calibration requirements. The system needed to be tuned to specific cosmic frequencies, harmonic resonances that would allow communication across dimensional boundaries. "We need to activate it soon," he insisted to Hayes, "before the entity comes too close. We need to demonstrate that we understand the technology and its purpose." Hayes hesitated. "My orders are to gather information, not to initiate contact. Washington is concerned about potential hostile intent." "That's exactly the kind of thinking that could trigger a reset," Nathan argued. "The visitors aren't hostile, but they are evaluating our readiness. Fear-based responses demonstrate that we're not prepared for advancement." As the debate continued, the array began activating on its own. The crystalline spires pulsed with increasing energy, responding to the approaching entity's proximity. "It's automatic," James reported, monitoring the power fluctuations. "The system is preparing for communication, whether we're ready or not." Nathan moved to the central control platform, placing his hands on the calibration surfaces. The blue glow behind his eyes intensified as he connected with the system. "We have one chance to get this right," he said, his voice taking on an unusual resonance. "To show them that humanity is ready for the next phase of development." The choice facing them was momentous. Attempt to communicate using technology they barely understood, or allow events to unfold without human input, potentially triggering the developmental reset the archives had warned about, with governments worldwide now aware of the situation and military forces converging on their location. Time was running out for humanity to demonstrate its readiness for cosmic advancement. "We need the correct activation sequence," Nathan insisted as the dimensional communication array continued its autonomous power-up sequence. "Without proper calibration, the transmission will be garbled at best, catastrophic at worst." 25 days remained on the countdown, and international tensions had escalated dramatically. Satellite images revealed Chinese and Russian special forces establishing positions in neighboring regions, while European Union representatives demanded access to the site through diplomatic channels. Director Hayes paced the control room they'd established near the array chamber. "The President wants hourly updates. The Security Council is split. Half want to attempt communication. Half want to disable the temple's systems until we fully understand them. Disabling the systems would be interpreted as rejection," Nathan warned. "The visitors would likely trigger a developmental reset." As they debated, Maya made a crucial discovery while translating symbols near the array's base. "These aren't just decorative," she realized. "They're a calibration guide, mathematical ratios for proper frequency alignment. With this breakthrough, the team worked around the clock to prepare for activation. James engineered interfaces between modern equipment and the ancient technology, while government scientists calculated potential outcomes and energy requirements. On the 21st day, before projected arrival, they discovered a sealed chamber directly beneath the communication array. The entrance was marked with warning symbols that Maya translated as transformation chamber and evolutionary nexus. When they finally opened the heavily secured doorway, they found a small room containing a single artifact, a floating crystalline core suspended in an energy field, pulsating with multicolored light that seemed to flow like liquid through its intricate internal structure. "The evolutionary catalyst core," Nathan whispered, recognizing it from information he'd received through the neural interface. Hayes approached cautiously. "What does it do?" "It contains the template," Nathan explained, watching the flowing energies within the crystal. "The encoded pattern for humanity's potential next evolutionary stage." The implications stunned everyone present. This wasn't just communication technology or historical archives. This was the actual mechanism by which the visitors implemented their species development program. "If accepted and implemented," Nathan continued, "this would trigger subtle but profound changes in human cognitive abilities and consciousness, changes that would propagate throughout the species over generations." "A forced evolution?" Hayes asked, his voice tight with concern. "No," Maya corrected, translating the surrounding text. "According to these inscriptions, it requires conscious acceptance. The changes can only be implemented if humanity chooses to receive them." Further study revealed the core's connection to the communication array. The two systems were designed to work in tandem, the array to establish contact, the core to implement approved evolutionary advancements if the visitors judged humanity ready. The approaching entity isn't just coming to evaluate, Nathan realized. It's coming to activate the core if we pass the test, or to recalibrate it for a different developmental path if we fail. As this understanding spread through the research team and government officials, debate intensified over the appropriate response. Some saw it as a profound opportunity for advancement, others as a potential threat to human autonomy. "We need to establish communication before making any decisions," Nathan insisted. "We need to understand the full implications." Hayes received new orders from Washington: secure the evolutionary catalyst core and prepare it for transport to a government facility. "I can't allow that," Nathan said when Hayes informed him. "The core is calibrated to this specific location. Moving it would be interpreted as rejection or theft." The confrontation that followed was tense, but ultimately resolved through compromise. The core would remain in place, but under increased security. Meanwhile, preparations for activating the communication array would continue. On the 18th day, as they made final calibrations to the array, something unexpected occurred. The evolutionary catalyst core began pulsating more rapidly, its internal energies swirling with increasing intensity. "Something's happening," James reported, monitoring energy fluctuations. "The core is responding to an external stimulus. The approaching cosmic entity had accelerated. New calculations showed it would reach Earth in just 15 days, not 25, as previously estimated." "They know we've found the core," Nathan said, understanding flowing through his enhanced neural pathways. "They're coming to see what we'll do with it." That night, as most of the team rested, Nathan returned alone to the chamber containing the evolutionary catalyst core. Its pulsating light illuminated his face as he studied its intricate patterns. Within its crystalline structure, he could see glimpses of human potential, enhanced cognitive abilities, deeper intuitive understanding, expanded consciousness. Not superhuman powers, but a subtle elevation of humanity's natural capabilities. "Is this what you intended for us all along?" he whispered to the absent visitors. The core's light seemed to respond, its patterns shifting to create what appeared to be a response in the mathematical language he'd come to understand. Nathan realized he was facing the most profound choice of his life, possibly the most consequential choice in human history. The activation of the communication array would signal humanity's response to the visitors. The handling of the evolutionary catalyst core would demonstrate their readiness for advancement. As he contemplated these responsibilities, alarms suddenly blared throughout the complex. Security had been breached. Armed forces of unknown origin had penetrated the outer perimeter. The test of humanity's readiness had entered its critical phase, and Nathan found himself at the center of a conflict that would determine the species' evolutionary future. Gunfire echoed through the temple corridors as Nathan raced back toward the main chamber. Security personnel shouted orders, while scientists hurriedly backed up data and secured equipment. Director Hayes coordinated the defense from a makeshift command center, his expression grim. "Chinese Special Forces," he informed Nathan. "They breached the northeast perimeter 10 minutes ago. We're evacuating non-essential personnel. They can't be allowed to reach the core or the array," Nathan insisted. "The consequences would be catastrophic." "We're holding them at the outer chambers for now," Hayes replied. "But we need to make a decision about the array. If we're going to activate it, it has to be now." The approaching entity was now visible to advanced astronomical instruments worldwide, a distortion in space-time that defied conventional physics. Governments across the globe were mobilizing military forces, religious leaders were calling for calm, and civilian populations were growing increasingly aware that something unprecedented was occurring. As they rushed to the array chamber, Maya met them with urgent news. "The calibration calculations are complete. We can establish communication, but there's something else, something we missed." She led them to a section of the chamber they had overlooked. Hidden behind one of the crystalline spires was an alcove containing what appeared to be a more advanced version of the neural interface circlet Nathan had used earlier. This device was integrated into an elaborately constructed chair positioned at the exact center of the array's geometric pattern. The consciousness integration chair, Nathan identified it immediately, recognition flowing through his enhanced neural pathways. Unlike the previous neural interface, this device was clearly designed for a more complete connection, a full symbiotic link between human consciousness and the visitor's communication network. "It requires a human representative," Maya explained, translating the surrounding symbols. "Someone to serve as a direct conduit for communication." "That's too dangerous," Hayes objected. "We have no idea what kind of effect that level of connection would have on a human mind." Another explosion rocked the temple as the attacking forces pushed closer to the inner chambers. They were running out of time. James, monitoring the array's power levels, reported that the system was reaching optimal activation energy. It's now or never. The array is ready, but if we don't use it properly, the energy buildup could become unstable. Nathan studied the integration chair, understanding its purpose with growing clarity. The visitors required direct communication with a human consciousness, not just signals or mathematics, but a genuine exchange of understanding. A representative who could comprehend their intentions and convey humanity's response. "It has to be me," he said finally. "My neural pathways have already been partially adapted through previous interactions with the temple's technology." Maya grabbed his arm. "Nathan, this goes beyond the previous neural interface. This is a complete integration. Your consciousness would temporarily merge with their communication network. Would you survive it?" Hayes asked bluntly. Nathan hesitated. "The temple archives suggest it's survivable, but not without cost. Previous human representatives experienced profound changes to their perception and cognition." Another explosion, closer this time. Security personnel reported that the attacking forces had breached the secondary perimeter. "There's something else you should know," Nathan said, his expression solemn. "I was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor 6 months ago. It's why I pushed so hard for this expedition. I knew it would be my last. The temple's neural interfaces have actually been keeping it temporarily at bay, but understanding dawned on Maya's face. That's why the temple systems responded so strongly to you. The specific electromagnetic frequencies are interfering with the tumor's growth." Nathan nodded. "Which means I have less to lose than anyone else here. If something goes wrong with the integration, I've already accepted my fate." Hayes studied him for a moment, then nodded sharply. "What do you need from us?" "Defend this chamber at all costs," Nathan replied. "And no matter what happens, don't interrupt the communication once it's established." As security teams fortified the entrances to the array chamber, Nathan settled into the integration chair. Its components adjusted automatically to his physiology. Neural interface extensions emerging from the headrest to align with specific points on his skull. Maya worked quickly to complete the final calibrations, while James monitored power levels. The array's crystalline spires now pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating a geometric pattern of energy that centered on the chair. "The approaching entity is accelerating again," James reported, checking astronomical data. "It'll reach Earth in approximately 12 days. Nathan took a deep breath as the chair's neural interface components made contact with his skin. "If this works, we won't have to wait that long. We'll be establishing communication directly." Maya squeezed his hand one last time. "The translation matrix is ready. When contact is established, your thoughts will be converted into their mathematical language. And vice versa. If I don't survive this," Nathan said quietly, "make sure the world understands what this place really is. Not a threat, but an opportunity, if we're wise enough to recognize it." As gunfire intensified outside the chamber, Nathan gave the signal to activate the full system. The chair's interface connected with his nervous system, sending a surge of information through his consciousness. The array responded, its energy patterns converging into a single, coherent transmission directed toward the approaching entity. Nathan's body convulsed once, then went still. His eyes remained open but unseeing, now filled with the same blue light that permeated the temple. His consciousness had departed his physical form, extending through the array's transmission to make contact with the visitors. The fate of human evolutionary development now rested on what his mind would discover beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. Gunfire echoed through the temple corridors as Nathan raced back toward the main chamber. Security personnel shouted orders while scientists hurriedly backed up data and secured equipment. Director Hayes coordinated the defense from a makeshift command center, his expression grim. "Chinese special forces," he informed Nathan. "They breached the northeast perimeter 10 minutes ago. We're evacuating non-essential personnel." "They can't be allowed to reach the core or the array," Nathan insisted. "The consequences would be catastrophic." "We're holding them at the outer chambers for now," Hayes replied. But we need to make a decision about the array. If we're going to activate it, it has to be now. The approaching entity was now visible. To advanced astronomical instruments worldwide, a distortion in space-time that defied conventional physics. Governments across the globe were mobilizing military forces, religious leaders were calling for calm, and civilian populations were growing increasingly aware that something unprecedented was occurring. As they rushed to the array chamber, Maya met them with urgent news. The calibration calculations are complete. We can establish communication, but there's something else, something we missed. She led them to a section of the chamber they had overlooked. Hidden behind one of the crystalline spires was an alcove, containing what appeared to be a more advanced version of the neural interface circlet Nathan had used earlier. This device was integrated into an elaborately constructed chair, positioned at the exact center of the array's geometric pattern. The consciousness integration chair, Nathan identified it immediately, recognition flowing through his enhanced neural pathways. Unlike the previous neural interface, this device was clearly designed for a more complete connection, a full symbiotic link between human consciousness and the visitor's communication network. It requires a human representative, Maya explained, translating the surrounding symbols. Someone to serve as a direct conduit for communication. That's too dangerous, Hayes objected. We have no idea what kind of effect that level of connection would have on a human mind. Another explosion rocked the temple as the attacking forces pushed closer to the inner chambers. They were running out of time. James, monitoring the array's power levels, reported that the system was reaching optimal activation energy. It's now or never. The array is ready, but if we don't use it properly, the energy buildup could become unstable. Nathan studied the integration chair, understanding its purpose with growing clarity. The visitors required direct communication with a human consciousness, not just signals or mathematics, but a genuine exchange of understanding. A representative who could comprehend their intentions and convey humanity's response. "It has to be me," he said finally. "My neural pathways have already been partially adapted through previous interactions with the temple's technology." Maya grabbed his arm. "Nathan, this goes beyond the previous neural interface. This is a complete integration. Your consciousness would temporarily merge with their communication network. Would you survive it?" Hayes asked bluntly. Nathan hesitated. The temple archives suggest it's survivable, but not without cost. Previous human representatives experienced profound changes to their perception and cognition. Another explosion, closer this time. Security personnel reported that the attacking forces had breached the secondary perimeter. "There's something else you should know," Nathan said, his expression solemn. "I was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor 6 months ago. It's why I pushed so hard for this expedition. I knew it would be my last. The temple's neural interfaces have actually been keeping it temporarily at bay. But understanding dawned on Maya's face. That's why the temple systems responded so strongly to you. The specific electromagnetic frequencies are interfering with the tumor's growth." Nathan nodded. "Which means I have less to lose than anyone else here. If something goes wrong with the integration, I've already accepted my fate." Hayes studied him for a moment, then nodded sharply. "What do you need from us?" "Defend this chamber at all costs," Nathan replied, "and no matter what happens, don't interrupt the communication once it's established." As security teams fortified the entrances to the array chamber, Nathan settled into the integration chair. Its components adjusted automatically to his physiology, neural interface extensions emerging from the headrest to align with specific points on his skull. Maya worked quickly to complete the final calibrations, while James monitored power levels. The array's crystalline spires now pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating a geometric pattern of energy that centered on the chair. The approaching entity is accelerating again, James reported, checking astronomical data. It'll reach Earth in approximately 12 days. Nathan took a deep breath as the chair's neural interface components made contact with his skin. If this works, we won't have to wait that long. We'll be establishing communication directly. Maya squeezed his hand one last time. The translation matrix is ready. When contact is established, your thoughts will be converted into their mathematical language, and vice versa. If I don't survive this, Nathan said quietly, make sure the world understands what this place really is. Not a threat, but an opportunity, if we're wise enough to recognize it. As gunfire intensified outside the chamber, Nathan gave the signal to activate the full system. The chair's interface connected with his nervous system, sending a surge of information through his consciousness. The array responded, its energy, patterns converging into a single, coherent transmission directed toward the approaching entity. Nathan's body convulsed once, then went still. His eyes remained open but unseeing, now filled with the same blue light that permeated the temple. His consciousness had departed his physical form, extending through the array's transmission to make contact with the visitors. The fate of human evolutionary development now rested on what his mind would discover beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. The convergence field stabilized, creating a space where multiple dimensional realities overlapped. The visitors, 7 luminous beings composed of intricate patterns of light and energy, surrounded the integration chair where Nathan's physical form remained connected to the array. Maya and James stood transfixed, witnessing what no modern human had seen before, the intelligence that had guided Earth's evolutionary journey. The visitors did not speak in conventional terms, but communicated through modulated energy patterns that the array translated into concepts comprehensible to human minds. Throughout the temple complex, the fighting had ceased entirely. Both American forces and the attacking soldiers found themselves unable to maintain hostility in the presence of the convergence field's effects. Director Hayes reported a strange phenomenon. Combatants on both sides had laid down their weapons, drawn irresistibly toward mutual cooperation by some subtle influence emanating from the field. Within the expanded state of consciousness, Nathan experienced direct communion with the visitors. They shared their purpose with perfect clarity. They were cultivators of intelligence throughout the cosmos, guiding promising species toward a greater cosmic awareness. Earth represented one of their most promising projects, but also one of the most concerning. Human technological development had accelerated beyond their projected models, creating dangerous imbalances. Nuclear weapons, climate alteration, genetic manipulation. Humanity had acquired godlike powers without the wisdom to wield them responsibly. The visitors had returned earlier than scheduled to determine whether intervention was necessary. Through the neural connection, Nathan conveyed humanity's case for continued self-determination. Despite its flaws and struggles, the human species had shown remarkable capacity for growth, compassion, and understanding. The very fact that he had successfully established communication through the temple systems demonstrated a readiness for advancement. The visitors acknowledged this achievement, but remained concerned. The military conflict surrounding the temple, nations, fighting to control the discovery rather than cooperating to understand it, exemplified the imbalances in human development. In response, they offered a compromise. Rather than a complete developmental reset or full advancement, they proposed a middle path, guidance without control, knowledge offered rather than imposed. The central visitor approached the integration chair, its luminous form rippling with complex patterns. From its core emerged a small, crystalline structure, perfectly formed yet constantly shifting, containing what Nathan perceived as compressed information of staggering density and sophistication. The seed of knowledge, a data construct containing the distilled essence of the visitor's understanding, designed to interface with human consciousness and be gradually shared throughout the species. "What's happening?" Maya whispered, watching the exchange with mixture of wonder and apprehension. James monitored the energy readings, which had stabilized into harmonious patterns. "I think they're giving him something." The visitor extended the crystalline seed toward Nathan. Through their direct communication, Nathan understood the choice being presented. If accepted, the seed would integrate with his consciousness, providing access to knowledge that could guide humanity's development without forcing a specific path. He would become a conduit, not controlled by the visitors, but connected to their wisdom. The alternative was refusal, a statement that humanity preferred to continue its development without external guidance. This would not trigger an immediate reset, but would leave Earth's status uncertain when the visitors eventually departed. In this moment of decision, Nathan experienced his life not as a linear progression, but as a complete pattern. His decades of research, his terminal diagnosis, his discovery of the temple, all seemingly designed to bring him to this precise juncture in human evolutionary history. With complete clarity of purpose, he accepted the seed. The crystalline structure dissolved into pure energy, flowing through the neural interface into Nathan's consciousness. His physical body arched in the integration chair, blue light intensifying around him as the integration began. Through this connection, the visitors communicated their final message. Earth would remain under observation but not control. Humanity would continue its own development, now with access to knowledge that could help balance technological advancement with wisdom. The temple would remain as a communication nexus, accessible to those who demonstrated sufficient understanding to use it responsibly. The convergence field began to contract as the visitors withdrew their partial manifestation. Their mission complete, they would continue their journey to other developing worlds, returning to Earth only when humanity reached its next developmental threshold. As the field collapsed, Nathan's connection to the array began to disengage. The neural interface retracted, the chair's components powering down. The blue light faded from his eyes, replaced by a clear, focused awareness unlike anything he had known before. When he finally stood from the chair, Nathan Cole was fundamentally transformed, not in physical appearance, but in consciousness. The seed of knowledge had integrated with his mind, providing access to understanding that transcended ordinary human perception while remaining essentially human. Director Hayes entered the chamber as the last traces of the convergence field dissipated, followed by government officials and scientists from both sides of the conflict. The temple's influence had somehow transformed their antagonism into cooperation, at least temporarily. "What happened?" Hayes asked, looking at Nathan with a mixture of awe and uncertainty.
"The attacking forces.
"They just stopped fighting." "Everyone did?" Nathan smiled gently. "They offered us a choice, and I accepted it on humanity's behalf. Not control or intervention, but partnership. Knowledge freely given, to be used according to our own wisdom." He turned to Maya and James, his oldest friends and research partners. "The temple will remain active, a bridge between our understanding and theirs. Not a gift to any single nation, but to all humanity." "And you?" Maya asked, noting the subtle change in his presence. "What happens to you now?" Nathan looked down at his hands, feeling the tumor that had been consuming his brain, now somehow held in perfect stasis by the visitor's influence. "I have work to do," he said simply, "sharing what I've learned, gradually and responsibly, helping humanity find balance between advancement and wisdom." As dawn broke over the jungle, the first light of a new day illuminated the ancient temple, no longer just a relic of the past, but a beacon for humanity's future. The steel door stood open, a passage between what humans had been and what they might become.